Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting chapter of Cliffhangers, the serial talk show. I'm Kendall Fontenot, your host. With me, as always, is Patrick Bennett. How you doing, Patrick?
Great, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Today we're going to be talking about a serial that there's rumored to be a new movie coming out, but those rumors have kind of died off in recent months, I guess you could say. Of course, we're talking about Blackhawk. Now, Blackhawk has a number of titles. It was the Miraculous Blackhawk, Freedom's Champion, or Blackhawk, Fearless Champion of Freedom. And most folks, because it's not a mouthful, I guess, just call it Blackhawk. It came out in 1952. It was one of the last serials released by Republic.
Right, 15
and it
chapters.
starred Kirk Alyn.
Actually, it's Columbia.
Oh, that's right, Columbia.
15 chapters, so it was a long one. Let's take a look at the trailer. Let's take a look at the trailer right now. We'll come right back.
Okay.
This is what started the fire.
What is it?
It's some kind of a firebomb, foreign make.
This is the leader.
Boris has returned with a prisoner. He did not succeed in his mission.
Does Boris know the penalty for failure?
Yes, sir. We all do.
Return with me to our native land. It's fighting for its freedom.
No. It's the Blackhawks who fight for liberty and freedom. I will return to them.
You will do as I order.
We have Stanislaus. Take his place quickly.
Hangar's on fire.
Hendrickson's asleep in there.
Suspect attempt to sabotage defense plant by organized group. Your immediate aid requested. Your assignment, Sector 4, Area 6. Signed, Forrest.
That's the old helium gas plant.
It's an electric eye gadget. Let me have your pencil flashlight. Hit the ground!
This serial came out in, I think we already said it, 1952. And it was the last serial based on a comic strip character. I didn't know that. But it starred Kirk Alyn, who many of you, I'm sure, know as Superman from 2 Superman serials. I'm wearing my Superman shirt today in his honor. And it also starred Carol Foreman, who played the Spider Lady in the first Superman serial, along with Kirk Alyn. She was the villain in there.
This was cool to see them teamed up again in another serial.
Yeah, and the thing with Carol Foreman, she was the boss in Superman. She was the Spider Lady. She ran the show. And in this one, she plays second fiddle to the leader.
Right.
And I'm not going to give away who the leader is, but she takes her orders from him and gives them to everybody else. But her character, to me, had a little more sass than Spider Lady did. There's one scene where her and one of the henchmen are trying to get away, and she totally fakes out the Blackhawks with her driving superiority. And he looks at her and he says, "Nice driving, baby," or "Nice driving, girl," or something like that. And she says, "It's Alaska." Yeah.
So let me ask you something, man. How
Okay.
Growing up, okay, as a kid, were you familiar with Blackhawk at all?
No.
No.
I didn't know about Blackhawk until a few years ago at Calcasieu Cereal Fest.
Really?
First
Okay.
time I'd ever heard of Blackhawk.
Okay. Because I grew up in the 70s and the early 80s, and then the mid 80s was my high school years. But in the 70s, I read Blackhawk comics. I read Blackhawk in the 80s. I read Blackhawk in the 90s. It's been out there, since the early 40s. they've always had comic books at Blackhawk. So not only did I read them, but I would play as Blackhawk when I was a kid. I remember one specific time, it was in the early 80s, they decided to kind of do a reboot of the comic book during the same run, okay? They didn't like cancel the comic and then bring it back. It's like during the same run, they just went a different direction with it. Like the next issue changed it completely. They brought it out of the World War II years into the modern, in the 80s. And the Blackhawks, instead of flying those old planes, they had like fighter jets, and they had modern costumes, you know, fighter jet helmets. They had more of a sleek costume, didn't have that big flap or anything. And it was more like a flight suit. And the Blackhawk logo was on the side here, smaller. But it was cool, but it wasn't the old Blackhawk, you know. But I like the 40s style better. But this new style they came out with, I had an old jogging suit that was blue, okay? And I wore a red t-shirt under it, and I would unzip the jogging suit down to my belly button where it would open and show the red, because that was kind of resemble the new comics, all right? And I took some yellow and black construction paper, and I made me a Blackhawk emblem, and I taped it right there. And I would go outside, man. I remember my grandma had a swing set for me, and I'd get that thing going as high as I could go. And then I would jump out, you know, and that was me parachuting because my plane was about to explode, you know. So I would land on the ground, and I had to hurry up and roll that chute up, pull out my pistol, and I'd go to war, you know. But I remember playing Blackhawk a lot when I was a kid. It was one of my favorite heroes. But I didn't know about the serial until probably the 90s, maybe. And when I found out that there was a Blackhawk serial, man, I got as fast as I could to the mall to Suncoast Video, and I had them ordered out of the catalog. It took a few weeks to get it in, but it was on double VHS. And man, I went home and I watched that thing right away, okay? But so yeah, I was very familiar with it. So with that said, I want to ask you, what did you think about this serial?
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked how it was a team. Ultimately, it just became basically Blackhawk and Chuck that did all the work. But I liked how they had a team. I liked how they had a base of operations. They had a cook, Chop Chop. They had him, and then they had Hendrickson working on the planes. Oh, and that was pretty neat. I thought it was kind of odd. They didn't use guns.
Yeah.
If you noticed in the serial, they never had a gun on them. Now they took guns from people and used them.
Yeah.
But
what did the narrator on the opening of each chapter, he said something about they don't use weapons, they use their fists or something.
Yeah, it was something like armed only with their bravery and something else. I don't remember exactly how it went. But now that was another thing, the opening. I thought the opening was cool, where they got the front of the plane and then the propeller kicks off. That was awesome looking.
Let me tell you something real quick.
Okay.
I did not like this serial.
Really?
Really. That's why I was asking you if you were already familiar with the character before the serial, you know? Because I was. And with what we're talking about right there where they didn't use guns, man, that is a bunch of bull. Because the comics I read, I don't know if they just did that for this serial or if it was like that in the 40s comics. But the comic books I would read in the 70s and the 80s, dude, Blackhawk had 245 pistols, and sometimes he had a Tommy gun. You know, he was mowing down people, fighting the Nazis, you know. I mean, they all carried guns, man. So I don't know where that came from. So, but that's not the only reason why I did not like this series. So go ahead. You said you thought it was cool?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. One thing that kind of bothered me about it is they're supposed to be this fighting force in the air.
Right.
And almost all of the action's on the ground.
Yeah, they're driving around in cars or walking on foot.
And when they are in planes, they parachute out of them or they blow up.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little odd.
Just have them flying around.
Yeah, it was odd. I mean, I enjoyed the story.
Yeah.
I liked how they had, the
I did.
leader and the Element X,
Yeah.
and then the ray gun with Dr. Rolfe.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. Blackhawk didn't come across as the brightest of guys. None of those guys really came off.
Dude, the dialogue sucked. I thought it was horribly written. The whole, you know what? This whole plot and everything, 15 chapters was too long for this story. I mean, they could have easily done it in 12, maybe even 10. You know, I thought it was way too long for what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, they really could have just split it up into like a hunt for the ray gun. They could have expanded it into 12 chapters, or they could just do Element X and expand that into 12 chapters. You know, to me, it was like it was two different stories going on. And, you know, they close the door of Dr. Rolfe, and then they go after the Element X. The way, to me, it was two different stories in that way. Now, it did have one of the coolest special effects that I've seen in a serial. And that was when they were in the oil field fighting, and the derricks start blowing up one at a time. I thought those were real good. And I thought the explosions were done really well in the whole serial. Was it in the first chapter, they blow up the plane with Blackhawk and Chuck in it. And, I mean, you could see the line of explosives go off. But visually, it looked great. Yeah. I thought they had some pretty good cliffhangers in there, too. Like whenever, not Boris, the good version of Stan. When Stan is tied to that post and the plane's coming toward him,
right? And
Kirk Alyn has to, you know, veer the plane away. I thought that was pretty cool. Right. And then I read where Kirk Alyn actually did that stunt.
Yeah, I read it too. He actually ran out and grabbed the wing.
Yeah, and he could have died. Yeah. he could have gotten killed if he would have just a little bit off. So I think that's pretty cool. For those of you who aren't familiar with the story, the serial specifically, not the comic books or they had a brief radio show too. The Blackhawk serial, there is a villain named the Leader, and he has a group of thugs that work for him, and they're led by a lady named Laska, who's played by Carol Foreman. And in the serial, they're trying to find a ray gun, and then they try to find Element X. And Blackhawk, the Blackhawk International group, is trying to stop them from doing that. And Blackhawk, and it's mainly, like I mentioned earlier, it's Blackhawk and mainly this guy named Chuck do most of the fighting. They stop the henchmen. But there's also a character named Stan, who's played by Rick Vallon. And he actually had two roles in the early parts of the serial. He played Stan and his twin Boris. Boris was a villain, and they swapped Boris for Stan to try to trick the Blackhawks. And of course, the Blackhawks figure out what's going on, and Boris meets an untimely end. And then we move into the chase for the ray gun, and then the Element X portion of the serial. It's a pretty fast-paced serial, in my opinion. Patrick didn't like it, but I didn't have the background with the character that you do. In my research, I saw that a lot of people.
That's what I was wondering, if
that?
Kids in the 40s, were the comics back then more like the serial where they didn't carry guns? That's what I don't know.
Okay, see, I mean, you look at like Batman.
Yeah.
Batman had a gun and he would shoot and kill people.
Yeah.
A lot of those in the comics, you know, a lot of those heroes had guns, or they would kill. That didn't seem to be a problem back then. So I don't see why it wouldn't be in the Blackhawk serial, unless they were trying to appeal to a younger crowd. I don't know. And by younger, I mean like 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and 5-year-olds, trying to keep it tame for them. But I mean, they had oil barrels rolling down over Blackhawk at one point. They have a couple of cars that blow up. They had one of them. They set bombs on two of them. They booby trap them, and they blow up the cars both times. they shoot one guy. Part of the serial takes place in Mexico, and they shoot one guy outright. I don't remember what his name was, but he was hiding Blackhawk and Chuck in the hay.
Oh yeah,
in the carriage
wagon. Yeah.
Yeah, and he falls off of the buggy. They set it on fire. They set the hay on fire, trying to get flush out Blackhawk and Chuck. He jumps off of the buggy, and they just shoot him, just point blank range, kill the poor guy. And then they keep going after Blackhawk and Chuck, and then a bunch of the villains die in an explosion too. So I don't see. I mean, violence can't be the reason they didn't have guns. The good guys didn't have guns. I don't know. That was one part that really kind of bugged me, is why they did not have guns.
Now, I love the character Blackhawk, the whole idea of the Blackhawk team and all that. Now who created this Chuck? I don't even know how you say his last name. How would you pronounce that? Kudira? I don't know how to say it.
I don't know. I don't have his name down here.
But I saw in the notes it said with input from Bob Powell and from Will Eisner. Of course, Will Eisner created the Spirit. But I like the Blackhawk character a lot. He's always, from the 70s and 80s, he was one of my favorite characters. And he first appeared in the Army comic in 1941. So he's been around for a while. I'll tell you, there's three things that I love about this serial. Number one is Kirk Alyn. I love Kirk Alyn. He did a great job. I mean, he was the one redeeming thing in this whole serial. And the second thing is his costume. I like Blackhawk's costume in here. I thought it was really, really cool. And the third thing, this is one of my favorite serial posters of all time, man. Have you seen the poster?
Yeah, I've seen the poster.
For everybody that hasn't seen it, it shows Blackhawk parachuting out of a plane that's on fire. It's about to crash, and he's parachuting down, and he's got a pistol in his hand. Okay, and I mean, an awesome poster. He's in the air. He's got a pistol. He's ready for action. So, man, if I was a kid and I saw that poster, and I was ready for some Blackhawk action, and I knew Kirk Alyn was playing it, and I ran to the theater to watch the serial, and they started all this bull about Blackhawk doesn't use guns, and it was just boring. He's hardly even in an airplane through most of the serial. He's on the ground. Man, I would be pissed as a little kid. I would probably throw stuff at the screen and get up and leave, man. That made me mad. I don't know about that, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was, like I said, I didn't know as much. I didn't know anything about the character until just a few years ago, and seeing the plot, I enjoyed the plot, but it kind of things didn't jive, like the whole not having a gun thing, and they're a flying team, but they don't actually fly, a lot in the serial. If it would have been a different name. If they would have made an original character,
Greenhawk,
that would have been, that would have been cool for fans that weren't familiar with the comics or the radio program. And so I can definitely see that. I mean, that's like stuff whenever they change stuff with characters that I'm familiar with.
But if you're going to take something with that big of a fan base, you better deliver, man. They didn't deliver. And I know I read, this was in the 50s. Serials were kind of dying out. So this is one of the last one, So, and the budget was real low, and they made it cheap. I mean, in one scene, you know how they called the hideouts for the villains was like Hideout 1, Hideout 2, or whatever they called them. Yep. There was one scene where one of the characters even says, all of these hideouts look exactly the same. I'm thinking, They said that so that they didn't have to change the sets at all. They could get away with it since they said that,
Yeah, they brought it up in a number of the chapters. Yeah. And another thing too,
because they wanted to fool us.
And Dr. Rolfe even they blindfold him, and then when they take his blindfold off at another site, he's like, "This looks exactly the same," or something. He says something along those lines.
Because it is the same. They didn't change the sets.
Even like the escape hatch in the back. They all had the escape hatch in the back. And
maybe that was why there wasn't a lot of aerial combat and special effects for that. Maybe because that cost more. I don't know, but man, whew, they should have
another
money because it was Blackhawk.
At their at every one of their sites, whenever someone would come up to the door, that person would knock on the door and they would just buzz them in. They wouldn't check to see who it was. You know, in other serials, whenever they have a secret hideout or whatever, they would always have a camera or something, and they would look and see who it was.
Or at least have a password or something.
Yeah, and in this serial, they even use a camera at one point, seeing somebody coming, but they don't use it when people knock on the door. It didn't make a lot of sense, but I still enjoyed it. As weird as it was, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Now, when I say I didn't like this one, it's not a serial I would throw in the trash. It is one that every couple of years I'll watch it again because I do like Kirk Alyn. I do like the costumes. Now, I'll give them this. They could throw down a fight, man. These guys could punch. And Blackhawk and Chop, man, they can land a karate chop to the neck, you know, like nobody's business. Whoa. But that was pretty cool. But I tell you what was creepy, man. The Blackhawk team, they don't social distance at all, do they? Man, they're always gathering like shoulder to shoulder, like in huddles. And they'll run forward like a crab in a huddle, you know. It's like they're always together like this. I mean, spread out, guys. Come on. Even if there was two of them, it's like they were joined at the hip. They were just too close, man. It was like freaking me out, you know. Just give some space, man. Where's your personal space, Blackhawk?
I liked how they would have time for tea or coffee or whatever it was they were drinking, and they were drinking in these little fancy China glasses. Can't wait for a pinky to pop up, you know, and sip at tea time or whatever. But yeah, it was fun. It's definitely not one of my favorites because of all the weird stuff that went on in it, but I enjoyed it.
I'll tell you one scene I thought was funny, or actually I guess it was stupid. It's when it's in the first chapter. Boris is sneaking along the hangar, getting ready to go in there and knock that guy out. And Chop is looking out a window and sees him. Well, Boris, instead of just walking along real quiet, it looks like a Tom and Jerry episode. I mean, he's like sneaking on his tiptoes, and I mean, it just looks stupid, man. This was some bad writing, man. I'm serious. Kirk Alyn had to carry this serial all by himself, man, because it just fell flat. I'll tell you, man, what could have turned this whole serial around for Columbia?
What's that?
It could have had Linda Sterling playing Lady Blackhawk. That would have been cool.
Well, I mean, it was directed by Spencer Bennett, so you think that was something a little bit better than that. But yeah, I don't want to get you started on Linda Sterling, so we're gonna.
All right.
So Patrick, I know you're a big fan of Blackhawk. I know you read the comics and all of that. Do you collect action figures or anything like that? Because it looks like you might have one on your shelf back there.
That is a Blackhawk. Let me get him. He's this is actually from the G.I. Joe line. And
okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah, he looks cool. He's got a gun.
He's got a Thompson 45. And he's also got a 45 pistol in his holster. But it came in this box. It was huge, okay? And it had Blackhawk in it. And then it's got another outfit. You can actually change his outfit. It's got some other adventure gear and stuff. But I forgot when they put these out. I want to say it was in the 90s. And they also put out a female villain character from the comics. I forgot her name, but they had her too. And I want to say there was a Lady Blackhawk also that you could buy. And then besides that set, they put out other sets of like adventure gear and stuff you could buy to go on different missions. But they did a real good job with it. It's all cloth clothing, rubber boots, got a rubber hat that comes off. But it's pretty well done.
Yeah, cool. Oh, do you know of any other collectibles?
At DC Direct, they put out a figure or two. I know Blackhawk was in some of the cartoons that DC did, probably in the 90s maybe. I don't know if you ever caught one of those. But they did a figure or two of him from that. I know they had, our friend Tom Trahan gave me a Blackhawk about that big for, what's that game that you dial the stuff on the bottom of the character?
Yeah, Hero Clicks.
Clicks or something. Yeah, Tom gave me a little Blackhawk figure because he knew I like Blackhawk. But so there has been some stuff. I don't know if I would like to see if there was any promo stuff back in the 40s in the 50s when this serial came out. You know,
Lobby card or something like that.
That'd be really cool to have. But and I would love to make a costume of the serial version to wear to conventions and stuff. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But
I would like to go with you.
Go ahead.
I would like to go with you when you're in that costume and see how many people recognize the character. Because man, I don't hear hardly anything about Blackhawk.
I know one person that would recognize it. Our friend Bill.
Yeah, he
Bill
knows all that
stuff. Serial costume cosplayer extraordinaire.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Bill have a costume too.
I'm surprised he doesn't have a Blackhawk yet.
Yeah. But I know in the 70s and 80s, I read a lot of the comics, and I read a lot of war comics in the 70s and 80s. I read, Sergeant Rock, Sergeant Fury, Our Army at War, the Nom. There was a lot of other ones. One of them was even like Weird Army Tales or something like that. GI Combat, but the Weird Army one would have like vampires and werewolves and stuff in it, some zombies maybe. But I remember in the late 80s, are you familiar with Howard Chaykin, comic writer and artist?
No,
he did, I think his big claim to fame was that comic book American Flag that he wrote.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, in the late 80s, he did a 3-issue miniseries of Blackhawk. And the art was pretty cool, and the story was pretty cool. But I had all 3, and these were like, it wasn't like it printed on normal comic book paper. It was like some one-shot type books, but there was 3 of them.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. So there's always, through the years, been resurgences of this character in comics. So, and one thing I didn't know, you mentioned a radio show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a radio show. I have to look that up.
Yeah, it didn't last long. It was a real brief series. I don't even know how many episodes it lasted. I was reading. I can't remember the source, but I read a few articles from different sources, and one of them there was a blurb in there that said that there was a short-lived radio series. And I don't know if that. I'm pretty sure that came before the serial, but I don't know if it came before the comic character. I'm assuming Blackhawk was a comic character first, and then he moved on to other media. Which, yeah, I mean, Kirk Alyn, he's a big guy. He's deceptively big. He doesn't really look that big, but until he's up against other people, and you realize how bulky he really is. He was a big dude, and he was light on his feet, as big as he was.
I wish I was a kid in the 40s and I could have met Kirk Alyn. I told you that Blackhawk poster is my favorite of all time. Man, just to have him sign, Kirk Alyn, Blackhawk, and get an 8x10 of him in that costume signed. Man, I would have treasured that forever, and Superman, get autographs of Superman. I really wish I could have met him. He was great.
Yeah, there was a lot of them that died, and a lot of them died within the last, say, 15 to 20 years. They were old. There weren't many of them, but they all passed away.
They were going to conventions, but I just wasn't into that back then. I didn't know.
That's like Noelle Neal. I want to say she attended conventions in Texas.
Yeah, I've seen pictures
She
of her
passed
like,
away.
while I was going to conventions. I've seen her picture attending other places, but I never thought to get her autograph.
And she passed like in 2016 or 2017, I believe. It was very recent.
Yeah.
And totally missed out on her.
Okay, so
She was.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For those who aren't familiar with her, Noelle Neal played Lois Lane in the Superman serial that also starred Kirk Alyn and Carol Foreman. Just wanted to drop that in there too.
So what's next for Blackhawk? I know we were talking about Steven Spielberg has been rumored to be starting a feature film.
Yeah, it was last year or the year before last, they started a lot of rumors about a Blackhawk film being in development. And then all of a sudden, they just died. I haven't heard anything about it since. And this was before COVID-19. So I know it wasn't the pandemic that shut down production or anything like that. I don't know if, maybe the production company just didn't see any money in it, or I don't know. I don't know what caused them to be so quiet about it. I would like to see it because, the very little I do know about the character, I like him. I enjoy what I do like about Blackhawk and the Blackhawk Squadron, but.
And I hope his movie, if he does make it, I hope it's a lot more like Sky Captain.
Yeah.
Because they had to have gotten a lot of inspiration from Blackhawk for Sky Captain, and I thought that movie was amazing.
Yeah.
And go more of that route than try to base it on the serial or something like that.
I hope set it in the 40s.
That would be too much.
Set it in World War II, something like that.
Yeah.
Instead of modernizing it.
Yeah, I think it'll fail if they modernize it. We've got enough modern heroes.
Yeah. Of all of the Marvel movies that came out in these last few years, it wasn't my favorite story, but the Captain America movie, the Captain America, the First Avenger, I love that film because it took place in World War II.
Yeah.
I love that. And Wonder Woman also.
Yeah.
To me, those movies hit harder than anything else produced. Now, The Winter Soldier, when that came out, that's my favorite Marvel movie. Hands down. My favorite Marvel movie is Captain America, The Winter Soldier. I thought it was a great espionage film. And they didn't rely as heavily on CGI as they did in every single other Marvel movie. There was a story.
I thought Howard the Duck was your favorite Marvel.
No. I don't have anything against Howard. He's just not one of my favorites. To me, the Marvel movies, and I know I'm going to probably get hammered for this, to me, it's a lot of noise, and it's the same cookie cutter stories. You've got hero, villain, and resolution, and then they just happen to bring them all together for the Avengers movies. To me, the Captain America movies had heart, and that was something that was missing from all the other ones.
I really like that first Iron Man movie where he's in the cave building the costume and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was different.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, but it was all downhill from there. To me, especially the two characters that suffered the most were Thor and Captain America, because as much as I enjoyed the first Avenger, to me it seemed like they were just rushing to get to that first Avengers movie with it. And the same goes for the first Thor film. They were just, let's get this story over with so that we can get to the meat and potatoes of the Avengers movie. And those characters didn't really get to thrive until later movies. And again, I'm going to get hammered for this. I hate Ragnarok. That is my least favorite Marvel film ever. I hate Thor Ragnarok. It's the end of the world, and it's a buddy comedy. I
think all
did
of
not
the
like.
Thor movies were like the weak link here.
Yeah, the Thor movies, especially the Dark World. The Dark World was real bad.
Yeah.
I thought Chris Hemsworth did a great job as Thor.
Oh yeah, he's great in it. In the Avengers, he's incredible. It's just I guess the writing of those three standalone Thor movies.
Yeah,
just didn't work.
To me, the best Thor movie was Apocalypse. Whenever he finally comes out, he's full on God of Thunder, in full on God of Thunder mode, and they're fighting in Wakanda.
Yeah.
And he just goes off on everybody. I mean, that's Thor to me. Whenever I think of Thor, and to me, they just kind of they pulled the chain back on him. They wouldn't let it. They wouldn't release the hounds. You know, they made him hold back, and I didn't like that about Thor. That version of Thor.
Let me ask you something. Going back to the Blackhawk movie, if Spielberg does it, or if any director takes on this project, who do you think would make a good Blackhawk?
Not Ryan Reynolds. Really, I don't know.
And I hope they don't go the route that the CW does, and it's somebody in their 20s. You know, I hope they get somebody with material.
Yeah,
Somebody rugged.
I would think that the knee-jerk pick in Hollywood would be Tom Cruise. That's not who I'm saying they would pick, but that's not who I would pick. But that's probably whenever they start developing this thing, if they get serious about it, they're gonna say, "Oh, it's gonna be, we need Tom Cruise for this movie. He'd be perfect." And I think he'd be a terrible choice. Nothing against Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I just don't think he'd be right for this
You need
movie.
to stick with Maverick. Let somebody else take up Blackhawk's plane.
Yeah, stick to his plane movie.
But it needs to be a serious actor, you know. I know I know every time a project comes up, people throw out the name Chris, what's his name? Pratt. But I don't see him playing Blackhawk.
I don't see Chris Pratt as Blackhawk.
Somebody more serious and more rugged, you know.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford's too old.
You know, he might be kind of a wild card, especially since he's not an American. But Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's brother. I don't know if you remember him. He was in
Mockingjay and stuff.
Yeah, he was in all those
Red Dawn, the remake of Red Dawn.
Yeah, and with Jennifer, the Jennifer Lawrence movies.
The Mockingbird, Jay.
Yeah,
whatever it's called.
I'm going. Katniss Everdeen's boyfriend in there. I thought. I mean, he might, because he's tall. He'd have to put a little meat on his bones to bulk up a little bit, but I think he could maybe pull it off.
Maybe so. Hey, if you're watching this and you've got an idea for the perfect guy to play Blackhawk, put it in the comments and let's discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, it's whenever people ask me questions like that, I immediately know actors that I don't want in the role, but it's to pick the one that I do want in the role. And I just can't think of anyone right off the bat. But yeah, it would have to be a rugged, like a Marlboro Man almost type guy, a classically tough hero. That's what they need, and there just aren't a lot of those anymore.
Well,
I mean, you don't have
Steven Spielberg. If you're watching, and we know you probably are because this is your favorite show, give us a comment on the bottom and tell us what your plans are, man. We want to know.
And if you do cast Liam Hemsworth, I want credit.
And,
I want to be listed.
I'm available to play Chuck if you need a Chuck. Just saying, just throwing that out there. And hey, I will do it for free. That will save you money, man.
I'll be fat guy number 1 in the background, and I'll do that for free too. As long as Jennifer Connelly is involved in the movie.
All right, man. Well, I think that's enough said about Blackhawk. If you haven't seen it, watch it. You may like it. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion, and that's great. Like I said, this is not one that I would throw in the trash. It's just that I was disappointed because of all the hype that's been built up from my involvement with comics and stuff of Blackhawk. So give it a try and let us know in the comments what you think about it. So, all right, as as we leave you, we're going to show you the Sky Captain trailer. If you haven't seen that, watch it. I think you're going to love it. All right. Good night, Kendall.
Good night, Patrick. Have a good one.
See y'all later.
Protocol 90206, calling Sky Captain.
When the shadow of evil falls across mankind.
Come in, Sky Captain.
A bold flying ace.
This is Sky Captain. I'm on my way.
One intrepid reporter.
What's this all about?
He's coming for me.
Who's coming?
And a courageous naval officer.
What have you got me into this time, Joseph?
Nothing you can't handle, Frankie.
Are all that stand between the enemies of the future and the world of tomorrow.
Cap, this is Dex. Do you read me? Come in.
Hang on, Dex. I'm a little busy.
Jude Law.
Hold on.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Can't anything ever be simple with you?
And Angelina Jolie.
It's a pleasure to finally meet the competition.
Joe!
I see it!
Sky Captain and the world of tomorrow. Join the resistance at skycaptain.com.